Deep in the heart of Mosswood, a forest dense with twisted trees and shadowy hollows, lived a boy named Simon. He was a quiet child, the kind who seemed to blend into the background, always watching but rarely speaking. Simon's parents, Martha and Greg, loved him dearly, though they often wondered why he spent so much time wandering the forest alone. Simon wasn't truly alone. There was something out there with him, something he called the Whisper. It began one evening when Simon, then just 6, got lost in the forest. As the shadows stretched long and the trees seemed to press closer, Simon heard a soft, raspy voice. "You're scared, aren't you?" it said. Simon froze, heart pounding. "Who's there?" "Just a friend," the Whisper replied, its tone sweet yet laced with menace. "I can help you, but you have to do something for me." The Whisper's first request was simple: bury a dead bird Simon found by the creek. "It needs to rest," the voice had said. Simon obeyed, his small hands digging into the earth, feeling oddly soothed by the act. But as the years passed, the Whisper's requests grew darker. It guided Simon to animals, a rabbit with a broken leg, a stray cat, and told him they were suffering. "End their pain," it whispered, "and bury them so they'll be safe." Reluctantly, Simon complied. Each time, the voice praised him, its words wrapping around his mind like ivy, tightening and controlling. By the time Simon was 10, the forest behind his house was filled with shallow graves. His parents, unaware of his grim hobby, only noticed how pale and withdrawn their son had become. One night, Simon sat on his bed, the forest visible through his window. The Whisper was louder now, even when he wasn't in the woods. "You've been such a good boy," it hissed, almost tenderly. "But there's one more thing I need." Simon's breath hitched. "What?" The Whisper paused, as if savoring the moment. "Your parents. They're keeping you from me. Bring them to the forest." "No," Simon shouted, his voice trembling. But the Whisper laughed, a low, guttural sound that made his stomach churn. "You'll do it, Simon. You always do what I ask." The next morning, Simon was unusually cheerful. He suggested a family picnic in the forest. His parents, relieved to see their son smiling again, eagerly agreed. They ventured deep into Mosswood, carrying a basket of food and a blanket. Simon led them to a small clearing surrounded by gnarled trees. As they unpacked the picnic, Simon stepped back, his eyes darting to the shadows. "They're here," the Whisper said, though it sounded more like a growl now. "Do it." Simon hesitated, clutching the knife he had hidden in his jacket. His parents turned to him, puzzled by his sudden stillness. "Simon?" his mother asked. Tears streamed down Simon's face as he raised the blade. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Before he could act, the ground beneath the clearing began to shake. The graves Simon had dug split open, and from them rose the creatures he had buried, twisted and mangled, their eyes glowing with unnatural light. They surrounded the family, their snarls drowning out the Whisper's commands. The creatures turned to Simon, their once dead eyes filled with rage and sorrow. "Why?" they seemed to ask. The Whisper screamed, its voice shrill and furious, as the creatures advanced towards Simon. But before they could reach him, the forest fell silent. Simon woke up alone in the clearing, his parents and the Whisper gone. The graves were sealed, the forest unnaturally still. He ran home, but his house was empty, his parents never to be seen again. From that day on, Simon never entered the forest. But at night, when the wind howled, he could still hear the Whisper calling his name.